Why are you doing this interview?
Part of the whole living your life out loud and being honest and authentic is just telling people how human you are.
So is that why you're doing the
That's
interview?
part of the reason why I'm doing the interview. We need companionship. We need people to relate to us. We need to know that there's somebody out there just like us who's struggling just like we are, going through the same things, having the same thoughts. And I think that's where a lot of times people who commit suicide probably have nobody that they can feel they can be honest with. I'm sure there are people in their life that would have raised their hand and said, oh, they could be honest with me.
But they don't feel it.
But they don't feel that. When I knew that my professional life was going to be lived in the online space, I decided that nothing was going to be off limits, because you don't know what you say or what you share or what you don't say that's going to have an impact on people. You know, talking about my wreck, about having a brain injury, about the RA, about my lifestyle, about my faith, about anything, always brings a response from people, and sometimes in the weirdest sort of ways. You know, somebody will see me post about you know, I wish I could remember these things, but my short-term memory after the brain injury is just horrible sometimes. And somebody, I have that problem too. I had a brain injury. You know, what happened to you? And so it brings people together.
Yeah.
You know, and if you hold back or you don't talk, that's when people say, you know, gosh, I wish I had known that about you. I really could have used somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
You
know, the social media thing gets a bad rap.
Somebody said the other day that is social media separating us from really, because people aren't meeting anymore.
Right.
But I'm meeting the coolest people all over the world that I never would have had a chance to meet otherwise. You know, I mean, and with the technology we have, with Skype, with video conferencing, with tweeting, you know, I could be in a really bad place mentally, you know, and just think, how am I gonna, you know, I just have to, sometimes I literally have to pull off to the side of the road because I feel like I'm gonna cry. And sometimes when I cry, it's just overwhelming. It's just overwhelming. And I have trouble seeing because, you know, tears kind of get in the way. So, you know, I'll pull over and I'll tweet like, oh, all right, I'm about to just jump a cliff or something, you know, or I'm really needing some encouragement. And all of a sudden, these messages of encouragement and things just come flooding at me. I mean, I've had people send me Facebook messages because they wanted to encourage me, but they didn't want people to know I was having a bad day. When you're real and you're authentic and you don't try to hide who you are, or you don't get up in the morning, put your mask on and go to work and then come home and you're somebody different, people can see that with and without social media. The people that are really attracting a following in social media are people that are authentic. What does that really mean? You know, and it's the person who's themselves, who's the same, whether you see them on the beach, you see them at work, you see them everywhere you see them, you know what you're going to get, because they don't change who they are or how they act or how they respond based on the conversation that they're having at the moment or who happens to be in the room with them.
I don't know how many people do know that you have a life of chronic pain.
Yeah.
But I was a chiropractor in a past life, and we've talked a little bit about the fact that you have rheumatoid arthritis.
Right.
Most people don't understand how devastating that can be to a person's...
Yeah. You talk about rheumatoid arthritis, and that's one disease that is named for its symptoms rather than for what it is. The arthritis is a symptom of the disease. It's really a rheumatological autoimmune disease. So your body attacks itself. It attacks the joints, thinking that the joints are an infection. And so I think the final straw that finally went to the doctor, and he had the 6 months worth of, you know, I got injured here, and then this happened, and that happened.
And by the way, how long ago was this that you're talking about?
July of 2010.
Okay, sorry.
So, you know, that's when it started. That's when the first knee started swelling up and the whole process began. But what really kind of sent me to the doctor saying something is really bad wrong is my wrists were not only hot all the time, but they started turning red and looking like a skin infection or something, you know. And I thought, this isn't just an injury. This is getting worse, you know. And that's where I got the news, which again was not a happy day of my life. If somebody tells you you've got a disease that's going to be with you the rest of your life and it's this bad. I had the one knee, then the other, then a wrist, and then an elbow, and then this elbow, and then another wrist, and then my shoulder, and then my tailbone, and maybe not in all that order. It happened over about a 5 or 6 month period of time. And I just kept hurting myself, and I thought, I am quite the klutz. I mean, and I kept thinking I always had an excuse for why this was happening. And sometimes we can excuse ourselves right into our deathbed. I thought it was this, but again, I wasn't really talking with people at that time because I was in such pain. The doctor's like, what level, 1 to 10? And I was like, do you have an 11? Can we go that far?
Yeah, you can't handle the truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you really want to hear this? Yeah, and you also don't want to sound like you're complaining all the time.
Right.
I don't think you're a complainer.
No, but my partner was like, stop. I get that you hurt already, and I realized he was hearing it all day in and day out, how much I hurt. And every time I talked to somebody, like my mom would call or somebody would call, and the first question they asked, because they knew I was hurting, they'd say, well, how are you feeling today? And I'd tell them how I was feeling that day. And so, I might talk to 2 or 3 people in one day that I was going through, this is how my day is going. And Mike was always hearing that same thing over and over and over again. He's like, God, that's all I hear you say. So from his perspective, it sounded like I was complaining, but
he was also just finding out himself.
Yeah, we didn't know. It went on for a little over 6 months. We found out in January of 2011. And then, I didn't have health insurance at the time, so I had to apply for medical assistance, and then I had to get to a doctor's appointment, and then I had to, so that whole process to just get started was months. I didn't start on any kind of medication until April the following year. And that was steroids, to try and get the inflammation under control. And then I'm thinking, do I keep taking the steroids and let the swelling, let it do the swelling down, or do I stop for a while so that it doesn't affect my weight? I struggled with my weight in the past. So, seriously, I had gastric bypass surgery in 2005, I think. 2004, December of 2004. So the motorcycle wreck was 2005. A car was coming around the corner, drifting over my side of the road. He was on his cell phone.